Good day, everyone. We are Group 3, and we will be presenting the challenges faced by the Palaw'an Indigenous people in Palawan, particularly in environmental, economic, and socio-cultural aspects. The Palaw'an are one of the major indigenous groups in Palawan. They traditionally live in forest and mountains areas and depends on nature for their daily needs such as food, shelter, and livelihood. The Palaw'an are divided into three ethnologistic subgroups: Quezon Palawan or Central Palawano, Pugsok Palaw'an or South Palawano, Hooks Point Palaw'an. This report focused on the different challenges experienced by the Palaw'an community. First are the environmental challenges. Second are the economic challenges. Third are the socio-cultural challenges. This presentation aimed to explain the challenges and how they impact lives of the Palaw'an indigenous people.
The Palaw'an tribe, one of the indigenous communities in southern Palawan, is facing serious environmental challenges that threaten their land, culture, and survival. For generations, the Palaw'an people have depended on the forest for food, medicine, clean water, and shelter. Their traditions and spiritual beliefs are deeply connected to nature. However, mining, deforestation, and climate change are putting this relationship at great risk. Large-scale mining operations, particularly nickel mining in Palawan, have caused massive land clearing and environmental destruction. When mountains are excavated and forests are removed, the soil becomes loose and vulnerable to erosion. During heavy rains, the soil washes into rivers, causing siltation and water pollution. This affects marine life, farming areas, and the communities who rely on these water sources for daily living. Mining development leads to direct forest loss due to the clearing of land and the creation of roads through previously inaccessible land, opening up the fragile mountain rainforest. As you can see in this photo, a new road recently created to access a new mining project is opening up the fragile mountain rainforest. Many indigenous Palaw'an communities argue that mining permits were issued without genuine fee, prior and informed consent. For them, the issue goes beyond environment. It is about land rights, cultural survival, and exclusion for decisions affecting ancestral domains. Next, deforestation is another major issue. Logging activities reduce forest cover, destroy wildlife habitats, and decrease biodiversity. As forests disappear, the Palaw'an people lose important sources of food and traditional medicine. The loss of trees also weakens the land's natural protection against floods and landslides. According to Southern Tagalog Exposure News in Brooks Point, Palawan, over 28,000 indigenous endemic trees have been relentlessly cut down to make way for large-scale mining operations in Barangay Maasin, Brooks Point, Palawan, prompting controversy and environmental concerns. The illegal destruction of these trees, part of the local watershed, has not only damaged the natural ecosystem but has also led to the suspension of the local mayor for 1 year. Years after the wake of the deforestation, residents of Sitio New Panay in Maasin began to experience the consequences. Recently, for the first time, the area was severely flooded after heavy rainfall. This unusual flooding, according to the local experts, can be attributed to the loss of trees that once protected the watershed, increasing the risk of soil erosion and water runoff. The environmental toll of the large-scale mining operations and the destruction of the forest continues to be a pressing issue in the community, sparking debates about sustainable development and the preservation of natural resources. Local residents, especially in Sitio New Panay, are now grappling with the effects of the deforestation that has altered the landscape and their way of life. Lastly, climate change makes these problems even worse. Rising temperatures, unpredictable rainfall, and stronger typhoons increase the risk of flooding and soil erosion in already damaged areas. Droughts affect crops, while extreme weather events threaten homes and livelihoods. Because indigenous communities rely directly on natural resources, they are among the most vulnerable to climate change impacts. And now, some of the genetic and cultural heritage has already been lost through inappropriate government policies by discouraging shifting cultivation and creating significant negative impacts for both the environment and the survival of the local indigenous communities. It is important to remember that indigenous peoples play a crucial role in the stewardship of the Earth's natural resources and biodiversity.
Recommendation for Palaw'an tribe environmental. Protect forest right and reduce deforestation. Support indigenous lead communication support like carbon credit promotion to preserve forests and reduce illegal logging, mining impacts. Promote sustainable land use and agroforestry. Encourage training and programs in agroforestry and sustainable farm planning that increase tree cover and improve livelihoods. Development community-based ecotourism. Empower Palaw'an community to manage ecotourism, site sustainable, balancing income with engage in border environmental governance. Advocate for strong environmental laws like the mining to protect watershed, forests, and indigenous lands. Education and capacity building, support environmental education and capacity development to restrain indigenous knowledge and sustainable practices. Proper waste disposal. Proper waste disposal can help prevent pollution in the environment, dispose of waste in designated area, and recycle materials. And use of eco-friendly product. Using eco-friendly products such as reusable bags, waste container, and product made from recycled material can help reduce the use of plastic and other materials that harm the environment.
My topic is economic challenge. First is loss of ancestral lands and displacement. Is when indigenous peoples in long-standing local communities are forced or pressured to leave territories their groups have lived on, managed, and tend their cultural, spiritual, and economic lives to for generations. Causes include development projects, is land grabbing, policy changes, conflict, or environment shift. The second is decline of traditional livelihoods, is the fading or disappearance of time-honored ways of earning a living such as subsistence agriculture, fishing, handcraft making, herding, or hunting that are rooted in a community's cultural practices, ecological knowledge, and connection to their land. This decline is caused by factors like loss of access to natural resources, climate change, and facts, pressure from modern industries, shifting market preference, and inadequate policy support. My last is cultural and knowledge loss impacting economic resilience. Describe how the erosion of a community's traditions, language, traditional ecological knowledge, and cultural practices weakens its capacity to withstand economic challenge and build long-term stability. Valuable stand insights like sustainable resource management, adaptive farming, or specialized graph technique passed down through generations are often lost as communities face displacement, marginalization, or internal pressures.
Recommendations for economic challenges of Palaw'an tribes. So, first, protect ancestral lands and ensure proper consultation before projects. The Palaw'an's ancestral lands are very important to their identity and way of life. Any development or project should only happen after the community is properly consulted and agrees to it. This prevents land grabbing and loss of cultural sites. Second, support traditional livelihoods like farming, fishing, resin, and medicinal plants. The Palaw'ans rely on farming, fishing, and collecting resources like resin or medicinal plants for their income and daily needs. Supporting these activities help them sustain their culture and economy. Third, promote sustainable economic opportunities like ecotourism, handicrafts, and training. Encouraging eco-friendly businesses like ecotourism or selling traditional crafts can provide income without harming the environment. Training programs also help the community improve skills and access better opportunities. Lastly, prevent environmental damage and preserve cultural knowledge. Protecting forests, rivers, and wildlife is essential for the Palaw'an. At the same time, their cultural knowledge and traditions should be preserved so future generations can continue their way of life. That's all.
Good day everyone. Today I will explain the socio-cultural challenges faced by the Palaw'an indigenous group in Palawan. First, the spiritual life of Palaw'an is deeply connected to Ampu, who they believe is the master of the world. Their traditions, rituals, and daily decisions are guided by this belief. However, modernizations and outside influences sometimes cause younger generations to slowly move away from these spiritual practices. Second is the loss of ancestral domain. Many Palaw'an communities experience difficulty in securing their land through the certificate of ancestral domain, title, or CADT. Because of this long and complicated process, their ownership of ancestral land becomes uncertain, making them vulnerable to displacement and development projects. Third is cultural erosion. Many Palaw'an youth migrate to cities for education work opportunities. As a result, traditional practices like basal and tultul, which are forms of oral literature and storytelling, are slowly declining. Lastly, the Palaw'an also face marginalization and discrimination. Some experience unequal treatment, which weakens their cultural identity and limits their participation in society. In conclusion, protecting Palaw'an culture and ancestral land is important to preserve their identity and traditions for future generations. Thank you.
Number 1. Strategy of central domain protection. This means helping the Palaw'an illegally secure their land through the certificate of ancestral domain title CEDT with their land is officially recognized under Indigenous People Rights Act of 1997 IPRE. Then they are protected from displacement and exploitation. Land security have preserve their culture because their tradition, village, and livelihood are connected to their central land. Number 2. Cultural preservation program. This recognition process on protecting tradition practices like basal, gum, music, and tultul, effect chanting, school, and local government can supporting cultural education festival and documentation of tradition with young people learn their culture and prevents cultural erosion. Number 3. Youth engagement and education providing scholarship and culturally sensitive education encourages young Palaw'an to finish school while still representing their identity. If there are local job opportunities, fewer youth will migrate to city, helping preserve their tradition with the community. Number 4. Discrimination and social inclusion awareness program and dialogues between indigenous group and lowland settlers can reduce prejudice, promoting respect, help region pride and indigenous identity, and reduce marginalization.
Before I start, let me introduce myself. I am Mary Ann Elenco. So, in conclusion, the environmental, economic, and socio-cultural challenges faced by the Palaw'an tribe are deeply interconnected and continue to threaten the traditional way of life. Environmental problems such as deforestation, mining, and climate change have damaged forests, rivers, and wildlife that the tribes depends on for food, shelter, and cultural practices. As natural resources decline in Palawan, the Palaw'an people experience food insecurity and are forced to change their traditional livelihoods. These environmental changes weaken their self-sufficiency and increase their dependence on external support, making them vulnerable to poverty and displacement within the Philippines.
I am then Crisel Ohas. In addition to conclusion, the economic, environmental, and socio-cultural aspects of the Palaw'an tribe are closely connected to their way of life and overall well-being. Their environments serve as the main source of food, shelter, and livelihood, while their economic activities are often based on natural resources and traditional practices. These elements support their daily needs and help maintain their independence as an indigenous community. At the same time, their socio-cultural traditions, belief, and custom plays an important role in guiding their relationship with nature and strengthening unity among community members. Overall, the economic, environmental, and social cultural foundations are essential in sustaining their community, preserving their traditions, and supporting their long-term development and cultural continuity.